Good evening. This is STV News. Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga will not hold a press conference on the 26th due to the partial cancellation of the state of emergency for the new coronavirus. According to a government official, the press conference will be postponed next week in order to forego the decision to cancel off the 1 metropolitan area and 3 prefectures. Makiko Yamada, a cabinet public relations secretary who received a large amount of entertainment from the Prime Minister's eldest son, will act as the moderator of the press conference, so some say that he is hidden by Mr. Yamada. The government decides to cancel the declaration of the Kansai area, etc. at the government countermeasures headquarters on the same night. Initially, preparations were underway to hold a press conference with the Prime Minister. Since the deadline for the declaration is March 7, the press conference will be repartitioned on the 5th. Since January, the Prime Minister has held meetings when he decided to reissue the declaration, expand the target area, or extend the period. On the 26th, he is expected to respond to a hanging interview that accepts short questions from the reporters at the official residence. The Prime Minister's press conference was moderated by Cabinet Public Relations Secretary Yamada, and the senior LDP executive pointed out that it may be because Mr. Yamada is not shown in front of the TV camera. Around the Prime Minister, Mr. Yamada's problem and the decision to postpone the press conference are irrelevant. On the 26th, the government compiled support measures for the restoration of the disaster area after the earthquake that occurred off the coast of Fukushima prefectures on the 13th. In the disaster area, in addition to past disasters such as the 2011 Great East Japan earthquake and Typhoon number 19, the new coronavirus is also economically affected, so a special group subsidy for small and medium-sized enterprises will be provided. Emphasis was placed on business support. Iwate Miyagi and Fukushima prefectures are in mind. At a cabinet meeting on the 26th, the government decided to spend about 3.1 billion yen as a reserve fund to finance group subsidies. At the ministerial meeting held prior to the cabinet meeting, Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga emphasized that the government will do its utmost to ensure that hopes for reconstruction are not lost. On the 26th, the government decided on a bill to amend the broadcasting law centered on the introduction of a system that allows households that have installed televisions but have not paid NHK a license fee to collect a surcharge. The amendment also included the creation of the reserve fund system to secure funds for reducing license fees. With this revision of the law, NHK will be able to collect a surcharge, including unpaid portion, from households that have installed TVs but have not paid the reception fee, according to the contract, without a justifiable reason. The amount of the surcharge will be determined after the bill is passed. In addition, on the same day, the government decided on a bill to revise the provider liability limitation law as a measure against slander on the internet. A new system will be established to simplify the court procedure for disclosing information such as the poster's name and address, reducing the burden on the victim for claiming damages. Chief Cabinet Secretary Katsunobu Kato said at the ministerial meeting on the 26th that he was extremely regrettable in response to the entertainment issue of senior officials from both the Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications. After that, he instructed each minister to make efforts for proper operation of the National Civil Service Ethics Law. Regarding this, Minister of Internal Affairs and Communications Ryota Takeda repeatedly apologized at the press conference, saying, "I am deeply apologize for the strong suspicion raised by the people." Hachiro Okonogi, chairman of the National Public Safety Commission, emphasized, "We have lost the trust of the people. It is our mission to try to restore it." Koichi Hagiuda, Minister of Education, Culture, Sports, Science, and Technology, criticized that excessive dinners and the like mislead the public and undermine the trust of civil servants. Shinji Inoue, the minister in charge of the expo, also demanded that he correct his color and take actions that will be understood by the people. The Nikkei stock average on the Tokyo Stock Exchange on the morning of the 26th ended at 29,446.17 yen, a decrease of 722.10 yen from the previous day's closing price. The trading volume is estimated to be 734 million shares. The Tokyo stock market on the morning of the 26th is anaerobic to the plunge in U.S. stocks the day before due to the rise in long-term interest rates, and it has fallen almost entirely. The Nikkei stock average fell to 29,232.06 yen at 9:20 a.m., a decrease of 936.21 yen from the previous day. In the U.S. market on the 25th, the yield on 10-year government bonds, which is an indicator of a long-term interest rates, temporarily rose to the 1.6% level, while the Nasdaq Composite Index, which is centered on its related stocks, fell sharply. In the Tokyo market as well, about 90% of stocks listed on the first section of the Tokyo Stock Exchange have fallen, centering on the electronic component stocks such as semiconductors, which has risen in step with U.S. stocks. Stock prices have fallen sharply in South Korea, where trading began following the Tokyo market. Market officials are wary of the global trends to sell stocks and transfer funds to higher yielding U.S. Treasuries, Internet securities. On the 26th, the government approved a bill to amend the stroker control law to be submitted to the Diet, in addition to adding the act of miscuing the Global Positioning System GPS to the regulation target. It has become possible to deal with the case where the position information of the other party is grasped by the new means due to the technological progress. The amendment newly regulates the act of attaching GPS devices to cars without the consent of the other party. It is also targeted the act of arbitrarily acquiring location information from personal belongings, such as apps installed on smartphones. There will also be more places to regulate the act of squeezing. There have been cases such as identifying a place to stop by from posting on an internet exchange site, SNS, etc., and adding near the current location to home, work. Under the current law, the Supreme Court ruled in July last year that the act of attaching a GPS device to determine whereabouts is not subjected to the law. In January, the National Police Agency's expert committee, which was established in response to this, recommended that regulations be required. The Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare announced that by 26th, advanced vaccination of the new coronavirus vaccine had begun at all 100 facilities, including national hospitals. Since the start of the 17th, a total of 21,896 inoculated doctors and nurses have reported cases of suspected adverse reactions, but there are no serious cases. The US Pfizer vaccine has begun to be vaccinated in advance for about 40,000 healthcare workers. About 20,000 of them will be kept detailed records to investigate changes in their physical condition after vaccination. The remaining medical staff, about 5 million people, will be vaccinated nationwide in early March. Elderly people aged 65 and over, about 36 million people, are scheduled to start vaccination on April 12. According to the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare, by 5 p.m. on the 25th, 3 people reported symptoms of suspected side reactions, such as hives and chills. There are no reports of strong allergic symptoms, such as anaphylactic shock. At a cabinet meeting on the 26th, the government incorporated a mechanism for the governors of related prefectures to take measures based on the fact that the nutrient sources for seaweeds, such as nitrogen and phosphorus, are insufficient to adversely affect the fishery due to the water quality conservation in the Seto Inland Sea. We have decided to revise the Seto Inland Sea Environmental Conservation Special Measures Law. In addition to the target values for increasing nitrogen and phosphorus, the plan stipulates methods for supplying an appropriate amount of nutrients to sea from wastewater, from sewage treatment plants and factories. However, the target value shall be within the range of environmental standards. It was revealed on the 25th that the Japan Post Group plans to send 10,000 postal workers who are in charge of the insurance sales to Japan Post Insurance in the spring of 2022, part of measures to prevent recurrence of illegal sales of Japan Post insurance products. Strengthen management by placing post office sales representatives under the direct command of Japan Post Insurance. Approximately 15,000 public relations employees engaged in insurance sales at post office nationwide were secondary and notified on the 25th that the target employees will continue to work at the post office and will be secondary to Japan Post Insurance. Regarding the problem of illegal sales of Japan Post Insurance, which was discovered in 2019, the post office's external affairs employees are aware that it will be disadvantageous, and after canceling the insurance to an elderly customer, they will make a new contract. The performance of the contract was unreasonably raised. Clarify the chain of command regarding the sale of personal insurance product outsourced to the post office, and preventing recurrence by providing direct guidance from Japan Post Insurance. Olympus announced on the 26th that the number of users of the early retirement system has been confirmed to be 844. As part of the structural reforms to shift management resources to the medical device business, about 950 people have been recruited from the 1st of this month. Retired employees account for less than 6% of domestic employees, including group companies. As a general rule, retirement will be at the end of March, and special needs will be paid in addition to the retirement allowance. The cost of implementing early retirements is about 12 billion yen, which is included in the previously announced consolidated earnings forecast for the fiscal year ending March 2021. On the 26th, the government approved a bill to revise the Child Care and Nursing Care Leave Law, which includes the introduction of a special child care leave system, child care leave at birth, that allows men to take child care leave for 2 weeks immediately after giving birth of their wives. The aim is to support the participation of men in childcare and continued employment of women who give birth. They will submit it to the Diet and aim to establish it. The introduction is expected in October 2022 at the earliest. Childcare leave at birth can be taken up to 4 weeks within 8 weeks after the wife's birth. It can be divided into 2 times. During this period, employment insurance will provide benefits equivalent to 67% of the pre-holiday wage. The amendment will require companies to create an easy-to-use work environment, including the current childcare leave system from April 2010, in addition to conducting employee training and setting up a consultation desk. We request employees to confirm their intention to acquire the certificate. Companies with more than 1,000 employees will be asked to announce the rate of male employees taking childcare leave from April 2011. The world-famous anime movie Spirited Away, a masterpiece of director Hayao Miyazaki, will be staged for the first time, Toho announced on the 25th. Kana Hashimoto and Mone Kamishiraishi will double cast Chihiro, a girl who gets lost in the world of 8 million gods, and from February 2022. Tokyo, Osaka, and Fukuoka, Sapporo, and Nagoya will be performed in sequence. Mr. Hashimoto said, "I want to live on the stage as a living Chihiro so that we can be proud that we performed the world premiere." And Mr. Kamishiraishi said, "I will play a simple and brave girl with respect." The adaptation and direction is directed by John Caird, an honorary associate director of the Royal Shakespeare Company in the United Kingdom and a big fan of Miyazaki's work. In 2017, I met with Director Miyazaki and obtained his consent, and I have been preparing for it. Respecting the original story, the story goes on by setting up a bathhouse where Chihiro works. Toho will perform a work commemorating the 90th anniversary of its founding next year, with a view to expanding globally. Managing Director Atsuro Ikeda said, "Spirited Away has the theme of awakening the power to live, while many people are financially and mentally damaged by the corona disaster. A big message can be delivered." After finishing the first round of the season, Hataoka showed a convincing expression. "I think it's a good start." Although the shot was disturbed and turned back in the first half 1 over, it recovered firmly in the second half. At number 18 in the first half, she bent the second shot a lot and went to the lake on the left side of the green. She also removed the putt of about 2 meters and hit the double bogey. While struggling with the shot, she noticed that she has a habit saying, "I felt like I was hitting with my hands without turning my shoulders firmly." She gradually corrected it, and in the final 9, par 5, she showed a vivid shot that succeeded in 2 on. Although she removed the eagle pad of about 7 meters, she finished with a birdie. She's so light in the shot that had been worried about before the tournament. TSUTSUGO, who is heading to the camp for the second year of the majors, said at a press conference online, "My body and mind are doing very well. I spent off so that I could improve what I felt last year. I camp with a fresh feeling. We are greeted," he said. He works hard every day to practice batting against pitchers and has a bright expression. Last season, he played 51 games with a batting average of 10%, 9 minutes, 7 home runs, and 8 home runs of start voluntary training in December last year, and also worked on first base defense practice when the leaders told him to use it. As he said, "I haven't changed my weight, but I've been able to squeeze and move more easily than last year. My core has become stronger." The open game will start on the 28th. There will always be a time when I have to get results, so I will try not to lose sight of myself. I just put out 100% of my strength while focusing on what is in front of me, He vows to inspire and quietly burns his fighting spirit. And that's all for today. See you next week for another news update.